Man, I can't wait to get back into DRG again. But before we do that, we have a review to rate. No, let's just stop. No, let's stop. No. You start.
So we found this review here, and we're obviously just gonna look through it. We're gonna discuss his points, and we're just gonna see how it goes.
Yeah, we can safely say the game is fun. I think this is a fair point to make.
Yeah,
well, it's easy to argue.
Yeah, to give some context as to how much we enjoy this game. A few days ago, we were going to record this review. A few days ago.
Yeah.
But rather than recording the review, we decided to do gameplay first.
Yeah.
And we just didn't stop doing the gameplay, so we ended up
we just didn't stop. We couldn't stop. Even today, I asked him, "Yo, do you want to record the review before we play the game or after?"
We need to do it first, otherwise
wants to play right now.
Otherwise, you're not going to do the review. So again, just to be clear, we love this game. So if we disagree with any point here, it's not because we dislike the game.
Before we jump into the content, we have to say that the review itself was well written. Like, it wasn't waiting for paragraphs for new points to be made.
Yeah, every paragraph had a use to it, I suppose.
So let me start us off. The first point I disagreed with.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, there's not
a very well polished gameplay for a game made by a small indie company. Okay, why do you disagree with that?
You're probably thinking, okay, what's wrong with that? I just think, like, does the team size even matter? Like, I feel like
no.
Big games and small games should be polished equally. If anything, I expect the smaller game to be more polished because the bigger game has a lot more mechanics and stuff to go.
A lot more people go wrong.
Yeah, and there's a bigger team. When you have a bigger team too, there's also like more room for errors in between communication and stuff like that. Using the team size as an excuse. That's pretty much what it sounds like. Using the team size as an excuse.
Especially if
even though I agree that the game is very well polished, but I think it's just very well polished in general.
Yes, especially how they say for a game made by a small indie company, if they're expecting small indie companies to not be able to make games that are good for their size.
Exactly, you said it yourself. Yeah, good for their size. Like, if you're a small team, you shouldn't be taking a gigantic project that's gonna be super glitchy. You should take something that's doable to be polishable. To be refined.
Yeah.
Wait, let me drink water. I sound like my voice is like dry. There's just something about speaking in this environment. Like, my voice just literally sounds different. I can feel it. I can literally feel my voice sounding different.
You can feel the grumble.
No, it's not. He says, even though each class has their specific roles, you can vary their playstyle quite a bit with the use of different combinations of weapons, mods, overclocks, and perks.
I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
I think even though there is a lot of like customization with the characters, and you can do a lot, it all kind of like fits into the same sort of archetype that the character has. So you're never going to be able to play the scout, for example, as a heavy-hitting, explosive character. No matter what you add onto him, he's always going to be the fast-paced, low-damage, mobility character. When you play a character, you have a role, and you're going to be doing that role for the entire character. The next point here, movement and cave traversal are very fluid and seamless, which is surprising for a game set in a procedurally generated map. This is mostly true, right? It is mostly true. But I think it should be stated that there are quite a lot of problems with the procedure generation. They aren't like super common, but they are there and noticeable. So for example, sometimes you'll like be walking along and you get stuck in like a wee floating brick that you don't even notice is there.
Yeah, you can be stuck in a really odd position and you're wondering, how exactly do I get down? Or how exactly do I get up? Because that's what I need to do.
I just thought of another example where I was doing the fossil side quest thing. And the fossil appeared floating on the ceiling.
What?
So, yeah. And so to get up to that, I had to drill through the cave walls up to the ceiling and then fall down to catch it.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like, that was the only way I could have got. I don't even think the engineer's platforms could have built up to it. I don't think he wouldn't have had enough ammunition to get up to it. Anyway, so I mean, in general, it is true, but there are like problems with it that need to be addressed. The bug-like enemies are very well designed. There are many variations, and most of them are disgusting. this helps in building the illusion of a real ecosystem. No, it doesn't. So I mean, I would say that building the illusion of a real ecosystem is a big stretch. The game has like a base enemy type that appears on every map, you know, the wee spider guys.
Yeah, yep.
And
that's what I was gonna say.
And like each map obviously has like, they have some unique variations and like a couple of unique enemy types. But ultimately it's like the same sort of family of monsters you're up against through the entire game.
So I mean, you don't have like one animal in like every ecosystem in every biome. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that's normal for games. That's not a problem. But I think this is definitely an overhype aspect of it, trying to imply this is like a real ecosystem going on here when it's not. The amount of variety you get in this is the standard of action roguelikes. And so the next point here, the destruction of procedurally generated environments provides a hefty challenge and variation to the caves. This is also accentuated with all the different biomes and mission types. There's also more variation in the form of randomly spawning mini-bosses, machine events, and secret stashes containing I don't know why I went through all of that. And basically this is just about the procedurally generated part.
Yeah, you just get that.
I just kept going.
Yeah.
So there are some imperfections of it, procedure generation, which I think he actually touches on later. But another example of what happened to me was I was on an on-site refining mission, and the map was almost entirely vertical, so I couldn't. It was just too much of a pain in the arse to get the pipes up to where you need to get them to, so I ended up just leaving. So I mean, the generation is generally good, but it's a bit overhyped sometimes. Yeah, I think that's actually quite a big theme with this game. A lot of people will say, "Oh my god, this is the best generation I've ever seen." I mean, it's good, but it's not. I don't know if it's the best.
Yeah, I wouldn't say best at all.
You know, everything else in the positives that I haven't spoken about, or Mo hasn't spoken about, I think is fine. There's quite a lot we spoke about here. I haven't gone through it all, but everything else is actually quite a good point.
There's one point that they didn't mention, which I think it's a pretty big selling point for me. You know how you can play the game with co-op and stuff.
Yeah.
There was once where I crashed. It doesn't happen. Crashing doesn't happen often in this game.
Yeah.
Not sure why that occurred. Maybe I feel like that was probably because of the game itself, but I don't know. Anyways, if you rejoin a game after you crash, you can still rejoin. You still have the opportunity to rejoin.
Oh yeah.
And you'll still get your rewards and etc. You know.
Yeah, that is a good point.
In a bunch of other games, you might not even be able to rejoin in the first place, and even if you were, everything you had before might have been lost. Time for the cons.
So I mean, he talks about the procedure generated stuff, which we've already spoken about, so we don't need to go into that. So some random mutators anomalies are very annoying, such as volatile guts, haunted cave, elite threat, or lethal enemies. When you get a bad combo, it can make some missions excruciatingly difficult to complete, especially if you're playing solo. The solution to that is just not go on those missions. You know, these are optional challenges. There's always other, missions to take. You're never forced into these missions. So it's not. I don't think that's a fair downside at all.
A downside you can avoid altogether.
Yeah. The game still lacks a bit of mission variety, having only 8 mission types. Only 8 mission types? I don't think that 8 mission types is a lack of variety at all. Especially when you compare it to other games of this genre, which normally only have 1 mission type. So
So 8 is a lot more than a lot of other games.
Yeah. Especially since the 8 mission types you get in this. I don't even know if it's 8. I don't know if it's like updated or not, but because there was like one that was added recently, the industrial sabotage one.
There's some negatives he made that I agree. Like for example, the space rig. The ship itself.
Yeah.
He said there was not enough reason to stay there, and I completely agree. I wish there was more. Like for example, like the example he gave was like
a shooting range.
It was like a shooting range, but I'm thinking like something for testing, so you can actually test perks before you go in, and you can actually see the difference. Hopefully.
Like maybe maybe have an area where you go into like a hologram fight with the glyphids.
Oh, that'd be sick. Yeah.
One point I disagree with is in this section. It's something like a mess hall. Like they say a mess hall would be a good addition. I think that's like one of the.
Why?
I think that's like one of the. On the list of things that I would add, that's like the bottom.
Well, what's that for? We already
That's
have
like,
like a beer, like a
yeah,
place to eat beer, like a bar.
yeah. Like I feel as if it's something I would enjoy for like 5 minutes,
Hmm.
and then we go to the mission and forget it exists. So I mean, there's definitely things you can add to it, but that's not one of them. I don't think.
Yeah, and another pro he mentioned was how sometimes you can feel slow progressing through like upgrades, perks, especially the seasonal rewards. I
Yeah.
feel like that's
That is
intentionally made to be slow.
That is very slow, yeah. Okay, no, while we're on the season rewards, but I've got another negative. The paths, when you pick like the first one for like the driller or something, the driller or gunner, the next item could be like an engineer item.
Yep.
So it isn't a linear path for whatever class you pick, which I think is a big. I don't get that.
Dude, I remember being frustrated about that. There's like literally like what 4 paths you pick, but no matter what, you're gonna get items from every other.
Yeah, I think the game.
You have to like, yeah.
I think the game tries to force you into different classes when you might not want to play them. With the game's cosmetic system, it kind of like pushes you into trying different classes, which is fine to try to push you into different classes, but they should do that through the content of the classes rather than rewards for doing them. You know what I mean?
100%, I agree completely. And now it's a talk about the cons he didn't mention.
Okay, the cons he didn't mention. That was one of them there.
Yep, that was one of them. True, but there's definitely more, way more. Another one is like the game can feel very repetitive.
I suppose, yeah.
Well, I think it comes down to the same idea for most of the time. I think, sure, it's very replayable, but like with the same idea, it can be very repetitive too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's just not like, for example, an example is like the characters, like the mobs, like you said yourself. That one bug that's like everywhere. And there's stuff like that. There's like a bunch of little tiny things like that you see everywhere. That makes you think like, okay, this is super common.
Yeah, that's exactly like a real ecosystem right there.
But another point that I think they spent just as much time, or maybe even more time, on cosmetics than they do on like actual weapons and upgrades. I just wish they spend less time on cosmetics and more time on making interesting mods, weapon mods and stuff, and perks and stuff like that. I wish it was more like that.
I feel as if that won't change because as it is now, I think cosmetics are where most of the money's at. Because the game,
it's a financial decision. Yeah,
but like the bulk of the player base right now have already bought the game, haven't they?
Yeah.
So like, most of the money's going to come from DLCs at this point, the cosmetic DLCs.
Yeah, I 100% understand the cosmetic decision. I just wish they leaned a little less into it, but I can completely understand why they. Yeah, it's at least kind of respectable because at least I'd rather cosmetics than like, you know how the other games are.
Yeah, a con I've got is the difficulty scaling is a bit all over the place.
Yeah.
Hazard 2 is the default you get put into, right? But it's piss easy. Hazard 3 is still piss easy, but it's a bit harder. Hazard 4 is fucking impossible. So I mean, it's not impossible, but it's like we've had more fun with Hazard 4 than others, but we've died way more on Hazard 4. I don't think we've died on Hazard 3 once. And
it's like it jumps way too dramatically between both.
And then you've got Hazard 1, which is like below the default. Why would you ever do that when Hazard 1 is already easy? Hazard 2 is already easy as fuck.
And the last thing, and this is something that it's a quality of life thing. I just think it's unfortunate you can't pause the game, right? I know everybody jokes about like multiplayer game you can't pause it, but like you're 4 people, right? You're 4 most likely friends. Why can't you pause the game if everybody agrees to it? Why can't that just be a feature?
Like I remember when you crashed, right?
Yeah.
And just me and Bosco.
Yeah.
And I tried to pause the game, and it didn't let me.
Even when you were alone, because I crashed.
Yeah, like in single player, you should pause it, but I think
probably because it was technically a multiplayer like server campaign.
I would think that's so.
Yeah,
I don't know why we can't like make a change to fix that.
They probably could, but just didn't. Maybe haven't thought of doing it before. Maybe they think it's not necessary. I don't know.
Maybe it's just not big enough demand.
I think that's.
I think
that covers pretty much everything. Like that covers. We covered everything you talked about. We talked about the stuff he didn't talk about. We criticized how he wrote his review, and all that's left to do is to figure out how to end this shit. But we don't know how to do that. We don't know how to end this shit.